Yo, what's up guys? Selamat sejahtera saya ucapkan kepada saudara-saudari di Malaysia yang menonton saya pada hari ini. Saya akan menonjolkan segmen baru iaitu Bila Larut Malam Show. So let's get to it guys.
Bila Larut Malam.
Malam ini kita akan berceritakan polisi-polisi yang kita perlukan untuk membaik pulihkan kestabilan negara. Antara polisi-polisi yang tak sayangkan negara. So as I said, semburit, mistis,
やめろやめろこれだけはかっておいやめろ
Malaysians can't catch a break. In fact, we get distracted so easily by all the articles that's been put out by Malaysia Kini. Malaysia Kini, credible journalism that wants to push out pure, unbiased truth. Malaysia Kini, independent media who does not depend on sensational news or viral news or clicks or traffic that generates them revenue. Malaysia Kini, the only one and true source that all Malaysians should believe in. Is it just me or is Malaysia Kini starting to sound like another religious sacred text? I'm not saying all the stories are not credible, but when the readers of Malaysia Kini start regurgitating one side of the story without any critical thinking, that's basically propaganda. And if we're inhaling the fumes of burning propaganda, aren't we all to be blamed when there's a lot of polarization that's happening in Malaysia? So bros, for the sake of not propagating hate and sounding like a liptard, here are some things to think about Zakir Naik. He has 17 million followers. 17 million. How easy do you think it is to accumulate that many followers? So to put that into context, 17 million people is about half the population of Malaysia. And if you add up all the viewers of independent influencers like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Mohammed Jijab, Ben Shapiro, John Oliver, and the last one is not even independent. Senang lah when you preach some religious crap to some common folk. Senang je dapat 17 million followers tu. Really? Are you saying that 17 million followers are all simple-minded? If not, how many percentage of them are simple-minded and how many is not? So you sokong dia punya radical views ah? They only propagating hate in Malaysians lah they. Kau pun masih junjung dia macam celebrity ya? Don't talk about this topic lah they. You fundamentalist, you bloody racist, don't care about Malaysians, extremist. No, what I mean is, in reality, when you have 17 million followers and people think that you're inciting hate the moment you sneeze, 35 million of Malaysians will say, you. You're singled out in the spotlight. That's the fallacy of empathy against a single individual as compared to a group of people. If someone tells me their brother has leukemia and they need help, then of course I'll give them $1,000. But then if they also say that their sister also has cancer and the mother has a bad back and the whole village is basically poor and jobless, I cannot give $1,000 to everyone, and that $1,000 quickly diminishes to nothing. So you can easily channel a lot of hate towards one person, just as it's often easier to listen to just one leader as compared to too many. Or is it better to just leave everyone to make the decisions for Malaysia?
Maybe we should give the dogs a vote as well.
I'll ask my horse.
Now Zakir Naik is a student of Ahmadiyyat, and Ahmadiyyat existed in an era where he debated with Christians who also blindly followed their faith. It's in a time where religion was not spoken in depth, so their interpretations are pretty much very literal. Zakir Naik got famous for citing some scientific miracles of the Quran. Now you can appreciate such miracles would be appealing to the common folk. But to be fair, he doesn't even stoop down to that level. When asked why he is insulting and degrading other religions, this is what he says.
You prove Bible 4 times that Bible is wrong.
He's saying I proved Bible. I'm not insulting. If it is okay, brother, 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
2 plus 2 is equal to 5. Is it correct?
No.
What is it? Correct or wrong?
Wrong.
Oh, so you're insulting me now. Are you insulting me? Are you insulting me? Are you insulting me?
What?
Are you insulting me by saying 2 plus 2 is equal to 5 is wrong?
I'm not insulting you. I'm telling you it's wrong.
Correct. Very good.
That's brilliant. That's almost like a universal answer to arguments of every kind. Be it your spouse, or any given politician, or any groups of people for that matter. Now he believes Islam is true as 2 plus 2 is equals to 4. And teaching anything other than Islam is like teaching any people 2 plus 2 is not equal to 4 and is equals to 5 or 6. Now rationalists and people without faith would probably follow a probabilistic framework, and that there is no such thing as a fact that is absolutely true. That means that 2 plus 2 is not absolutely equal to 4, but has a very small negligible uncertainty in it. So maybe it's 3.99999999999. Muslims, however, believe the absolute truth that Allah is the one true God and Muhammad is the messenger. Absolute zero uncertainty. Now he keeps using these arguments to win debates, and following Ahmad Didat's style, he's very relentless at doing it. Yes, it sounds basic. Yes, it's not in-depth. Yes, it makes my emotions boil to a point where nothing he says will ever redeem himself. But if I'm so emotional, am I not just like the 17 million followers that he has? Where is the critical thinking? One controversy that made him infamous was in President Bush's era, where he claims that when the West sees Muslims as terrorists, then we all should be terrorizing. And that's exactly what everyone understands, that Muslims are just a bunch of terrorists. It's a political blunder. It's testy. But is it wrong what he said? Well, that depends on how far you want to go down the rabbit hole. And if it's regarding religion and the human psyche, it's a bottomless hole. One issue that stood out for Malaysians is that he questioned the loyalty of Hindus in Malaysia. Again, let's put aside his relentless, aggressive preaching style and come to understand the reasoning of why he is being stupidly emotional about this. Now, to understand this, we need to understand the geography of where Zakir Naik is actually coming from. Let's look at the northern part of India, Kashmir. Now, Kashmir has a majority of Muslim people in it. Now, thanks to the partitioning of the colonial masters, the British, somehow Kashmir became the epicenter between Pakistan and India. Now, because the Islamic value systems does not align too well with the Indian nationalist movement, now all of a sudden there's over 500,000 of troops in Kashmir alone. Basically, people who live in Kashmir are living in their own prisons and they're afraid to go out because of the parading of other militaries from Pakistan and India as well. Now this makes Kashmir one of the most militarized zones on the planet, and the fact that there's no accountability from India for breaching countless human rights against the Kashmir people. Now, in order for them to control Kashmir, they're putting out a propaganda equating Islam with terrorism.
One of the biggest terrorists we
to counter terrorism and
made to neutralize that terrorist. One terrorist has been neutralized.
Terror threat,
Some terrorists may have infiltrated.
a terror attack from Pakistan.
Those terrorists will
Now, one problem about why this issue is not really resolved is that India is refusing any third-party mediation or intervention in their countries. And they quickly find out in order for them to control Kashmir, they cannot just push out the propaganda of equating Islam and terrorism, but now they're trying to change the demographic of Kashmir itself. And one way of doing this is by building up settlements, just like how you have Israel and Palestine, as proposed by India's BJP. And the big issue is Article 370, a proposition that's put up by President Modi, who's basically an Indian nationalist himself. Now, the special status that's being put out by Articles 370 and 35A is allowing people outside of Kashmir to buy land and build houses within Kashmir and slowly occupying Kashmir itself. It seems just like how Mahathir is fighting for the rights of Palestinians against the Israelis, Zakir Naik is actually fighting for the Muslims in India against the Hindus of India. They seem to have a lot of problem with Muslims. You know, for a group of people who can't have beef in their life, you seem to have a lot of beef with the Muslim people. Now the question is, can we blame him for being emotional on this subject? Can we maybe take the higher ground and pardon some of his aggressive stances? Apparently not. So the Hindus in Malaysia may have gobbled up some of this narrative that's pushed from the Indian media that Zakir Naik is inciting hate and terrorism, and that a handful of NGOs want him out of the country. I don't know. I don't think that people can really know how it feels to be an outspoken outcast. But the closest you can get in walking in his shoes is to actually do the research yourself and apply critical thinking to your own research. I spent about 48 hours in total, listening to his talks, listening to Ahmad Didat's talks, other scholars, and other news portals besides Malaysia Kini. Isn't it odd that over the past month, over 130 articles has been pushed out by Malaysia Kini on Zakir Naik alone? And it's even funnier how many urban people blame the rural Malaysians to be intolerant when they are really the most generous Muslims you can find towards non-Muslims. In fact, even in past-dominated Kelantan, the late Nik Aziz invited the Hindus to build their temples freely in Kota Baru. Isn't it weird? The further away you live from pretentious, loud bunch of urban people who has nothing better to do but preach tolerance and diversity in social media, the more tolerance you will find in the rural areas. So if we can allow non-Muslims to have their own freedom of speech, why is it that Muslims cannot have their own freedom of speech? Zakir Naik is a sheep herder. I don't like his kindergarten level of explaining religion and the human psyche. I believe these shallow conversations actually limit the people from trying to understand the human psychology that's covered in actually most of the religions. But his style of talk is appealing to the bulk of the Muslims in Malaysia. And since they make up the majority in Malaysia, it becomes a very sensitive issue, especially when everyone starts arguing within your own tribes and not even trying to attempt to understand the position of the other tribe. And if you don't do your research properly and you just blindly follow news sources just like Malaysia Kini, then you're just a different kind of sheep of a different kind of tribe. Tribal people, they won't stop throwing their own gobbled up feces at other tribe members. Hello, this is Nikolai. Nikolai think underlying problem of Malaysian is not that they fear Zakir Naik per se. Malaysian afraid to talk religion with equal depth as they talk about science and technology. It's shame since Zakir Naik could have been pinpoint of discussion of whether Malaysia is religious or secular country. What do you think? Is Zakir Naik the cause of polarization in Malaysia? Or is the Malaysian causing polarization in Malaysia? If you have any ideas, leave comment down section below. If not, smash subscribe and hit notification bell and put a 2 thumbs up. But only if you want to. If you don't want to, it's also fine. I'm okay. That's all from me. Peace.
Bila Larut Malam.